Hello, and welcome to this Marketing and Communications Watch. My name is Chiqui Cartagena, and I'm the CMO of the Conference Board and the leader of the Marketing and Communications Center. And today, it's my great pleasure to welcome Benno Dorer, the Chairman and CEO of the Clorox Company, and our good friend, Dr. Jake Benefla, the Executive Director of the Center for Multicultural Science and a Senior Fellow here at the Conference Board. The Clorox Company is on fire, and I mean that in the best way. Their stock is up 30%, and their disinfecting products have been seeing spikes in demand of up to 500%. This is, of course, reflecting our new reality that has been brought on by the worldwide pandemic of the coronavirus, which has hugely increased the demand by both consumers and businesses for the suite of Clorox disinfecting products to keep them safe and COVID-free for months to come. Benno Dorer has been at the helm of this 107-year-old company since 2014, 6 years, and your leadership, Benno, during these times of crisis has been extraordinary. Thank you. Emphasizing on doing the right thing as the only guide to your decisions during the pandemic. But your success as CEO of Clorox started long before COVID hit, because of your hyper-focus on consumer insights to drive innovation, which of course, according to yourself, keeps the core brands of your company healthy and growing even after 1 century. We have a lot to cover with you today, Benno, so we thank you for making time to chat with us at the Conference Board, which, by the way, has also been around just almost as long as you guys at Clorox. This year, we're happy to say we're celebrating our 104th anniversary, servicing the business community with insights for what's ahead. So Benno, let's get started with the current situation. Last month, in an interview with Yahoo Finance, you said that you were trying to put in place some measures to expand capacity in order to meet the insane levels of consumer demand for your suite of brands, especially your disinfecting products. Can you give us an update on that front? I really need to know, will my Clorox wipes be there in the store next time I go?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me, Chiqui, and it's good to be with you and also with Dr. Jake. It's a question I hear a lot, where are my Clorox wipes? As you can imagine, and the short answer is we're making a lot of improvements, and we'll see a drastic improvement later this summer and early in the fall. Whether we're going to be able to meet consumer demand all the way will pretty much depend on consumer demand, but we're making a lot of improvements, and I'm proud of my people. The long answer is that if you want to run a supply chain in any supply chain, but certainly in consumer packaged goods efficiently, you need to utilize your capacity to about 85 to 90%. That means you have about 10 to 15 percentage points in cushion or buffer. So if your consumption spikes by 500%, you have a problem.
Right.
You have two problems. First of all, you can't supply, but the second problem is, what do you do about it? Because there's no capacity lying on the street. And you also have to decide, are you going to invest in long-term additional capacity, which you would only do if you'd expect the demand to rise ongoing and not just temporarily, or are you going to try to build distribution temporarily? What we have done is, first of all, reduced the number of units and different products and different SKUs, and we have deprioritized non-disinfecting products, and that's allowed us to increase our capacity by about 40%, and that's really an amazing accomplishment by our people in manufacturing. Then we've accessed third parties. We went begging, and we went using our contacts, and we have found 6 external manufacturers, and they are beginning to ramp up production for us. And then lastly, we have started to make significant capital investments to build new manufacturing lines in-house, but you know, those have to be built, they have to be installed, they have to be tested, they have to be run. So that takes some time. But I feel good about the progress. I feel like we're going to be much better able to meet consumer demand shortly. And importantly, we will be in a much better shape should this pandemic persist, or, you know, God forbid, should future pandemics be a reality for us. We'll be able to help.
Yeah, wow, that really sounds amazing. 40% increase in your manufacturing is a remarkable feat. Um, no doubt. And it looks like the long term, well, the short term, you've got covered. The question will be obviously if this continues to go on. Let me go to my next question. On April 23rd, President Trump suggested injecting disinfectant as a coronavirus cure. What went through your mind when you heard those words? And more importantly, what did your communications team do?
Yeah, the first thing that went through my mind was a four-letter word that I don't want to repeat, you know. But you know, the most important thing is, you know, for everybody out there listening, is that you know, it is very, very important to use any cleaning product, any disinfecting product, in line with usage instructions. That means that ingestion, putting it on your skin, all those things, please do not do that. I think common sense should prevail here, but it's very, very important for everybody to know that please don't do that. And also, please don't spread any social media messages on it. You know, let's use social media responsibly. But you know, what we needed to do early on was to correct that impression. So we put a statement out on our website immediately that was picked up by a lot of traditional media. But then we found very quickly that the real chatter was in social media. So we went on social media, and we worked with our social media partners like Facebook to correct impressions, in some cases to take things off of social media, and Facebook and others have been very helpful to work with us. And we have shifted our own communication from, you know, more traditional advertising to education. So we have said that we will not cut our advertising, as many companies do, but we will continue to spend money on advertising. But we will shift from product sale to try to be useful to consumers and consumer education. How do you use disinfecting products? What are they good for? What not to do? That became the center of our communication. Good news is it's mostly died down. We feel like we've been able to work through this very, very well. In part, of course, because the claim that you should ingest or inject is pretty outlandish. But I'm really proud of our communication folks of reacting so quickly and doing it where it mattered the most, which was on social media.
Yeah, I recall your statement immediately. I thought it was brilliant. And then, of course, the problem with the social media is the fake news and how it gets activated. So thank you for your advice on that front, because we run both communications and marketing at this center. Throughout your long career, first at P&G and now at the Clorox company, you have been a true believer in driving innovation as a corporate growth strategy. In 2017, and listen to how incredible this is, you launched a new Cloromax bleach that was meant not only to clean and disinfect, but to protect. This product had 10 patents associated with it. How did you know this was going to be important to consumers, and how incredible is it that you have this product now in the market?
Yeah, we can innovate on our oldest product, Clorox Liquid Bleach, which is 107 years old still today. And perhaps it's an example of what we're particularly proud of, and that's our consistent track record of churning out innovation across our portfolio. We look at innovation as an investment, not as a cost. We have the second highest spending in R&D in our industry on a percentage of net sales basis. And we're able to generate pretty reliably, consistently, 3% of incremental sales growth every single year through innovation. I used to have innovation jobs in my career history myself, and that's maybe what part of drove this belief that innovation is the lifeblood in our industry. But the reason why I think we've done so well, first of all, is that we're truly consumer-led. We have an organization that's in service of consumers, and we have a consumer insights capability that not just we think is best in class, but the industry, as we know from past reports, also thinks is best in class. There's a lot of talk about data, and that the source of innovation is data, and the future of our business is in data. I think that's only 50% true. We think that it's data coupled with insights, and that the human aspect of consumer empathy is sometimes underestimated. We believe that connecting at the very human level with people and understanding things that can't be articulated and that are a lot more emotional and are not found in data is so important. And we have continued to invest in the consumer insights capability, and that's one important reason why we've been doing well. Second one, I think, is partnerships. We have long abandoned the ivory tower mentality where everything's done in-house. About 85% last time we measured of all innovations that we bring to market as a Clorox company has a partnership component. And we look at ourselves as a node in a large network, companies big and small that have capabilities, whether it's trademarks or patents or technologies or know-how, you name it. Pretty much everything we do as a company involves partnerships, and that allows us to have more ideas and bring them to market faster, and we're pretty proud of that. And then third, I would say we hold our management teams accountable. So my own pay determines on how much innovation we churn out every year. And there's this old saying that you get what you measure, and because my compensation depends upon it, and my board holds me accountable, and in turn I hold my leadership team accountable, who hold their business teams and functional teams accountable. That drives the right systematic process that makes innovation sustainable for our company. So I feel like we've developed a real sweet spot of capabilities and processes and culture around innovation. And I expect that to continue to work for us in the future, because we'll need it, especially as we hit the recession.
Absolutely. And you touched on investing in consumer insights and partnerships and innovation. We at the conference board have a study on signposts for innovation, and we measure companies that do this, and you're doing everything right, of course. That's why your stock is up 30%. I am going to take this next question, which Bill Duran, somebody who's tuning in, thank you for your question, Bill, is going to be addressed with my next question. Tell us more, Benno, about your Ignite strategy and why you tied it to your CSR goals as well.
The latter point first, perhaps, because it's so important and near and dear to my heart. I and my management team believe that we certainly have responsibility to serve our shareholders, and we're doing that pretty well. But I do believe that we have responsibility for all stakeholders, and that includes employees and suppliers and customers and our communities, but also the planet as a whole. I started talking about what today is being referred to as stakeholder capitalism in my investor presentations in 2015. And at the time, it was somewhat of a novelty, and some people were wondering why we're doing this, but it came out of a core belief that it is the right thing to do. Our core value as a company is doing the right thing, and fully integrating ESG into our business strategy is something that we've done with this last version of our strategy, which we call Ignite, and we're really proud of that. We think that sustainability is and ESG more broadly, and our I&D commitment certainly is part of ESG as well, isn't just something that makes us feel good, but it adds real value. So that's why we're doing it. It's good for business as well. But the core of the Ignite strategy is innovation. We want to be exceptional innovators who earn people's enduring loyalty. I know that's a handful, but that's what we're after. And that means we have to innovate in our products, in our brands, in the way we go to market, in the shopping experience, in how we work, importantly, and we have to innovate in how we create engagement with our employees, because we pride ourselves in having an extremely high employee engagement, and we believe that engagement is very positively correlated with shareholder return in the long run. And then on ESG and sustainability, you know, what we found, what our ambition is to make sustainability mainstream. So we don't want to appeal to the 2-3% of people who typically jump on so-called green innovation. We want to have innovation for everybody. We want to make a difference to all of our products. And our signature goal in the sustainability area, even though we have several, is to reduce the amount of plastic and fiber that we use in our product and packaging by 50%, 50, by the year 2030. That's an aspirational goal, and to be honest, we don't exactly know how we get there, but that's why it's the right goal, because it requires us to step change our thinking. And we know if we do that, there's going to be tremendous value. We will grow faster, we will generate a lot of cost savings and reduce a lot of waste. And you know, that's going to work also for our customers and of course for consumers. So we think this is a win-win-win for us, for consumers and customers, and also for the planet.
Thank you. And we're getting some questions. I'm sorry I didn't tell the audience earlier. I will take your questions at the end, and I'm loving the questions I'm seeing, but I just want to get through our questions with Benno, and then we'll get to yours. We both work for mission-driven companies. The mission of your company has as its core to be in service of public health. How important is that, and how important is purpose for brands?
Yeah, Clorox, we believe in purpose-driven and personalized brands. That's how we call it. Purpose-driven is absolutely essential, Chiki, and I know we both know this, and I think everybody who's tuning in is well aware of this. Consumers care about what brands believe in, what companies believe in, what difference brands are making to society. It's not just about being a better product, but it's about who you are and what good you are doing. So this is something that we're very interested in, and our fiscal year ends in exactly 7 days-ish, I think. No, 6 days, you know. And by the end of this fiscal year, we will have activated purpose on all of our U.S. brands, and we're very proud of that. And you know, this is something that makes us feel good, and certainly is consistent with our mantra of trying to do the right thing. But it also works for business. You know, on our oldest brand, Clorox, we have you know 12 major brands, but on our oldest brand, Clorox, we started activating our brand purpose 2 years ago. And the Clorox brand is about creating a cleaner and safer world that allows people to thrive. And the ROIs, since we have switched to this brand purpose, are through the roof. They are up significantly. And the key aha was that for decades we focused our advertising and our marketing communication only on the cleaning aspect. You know, telling people that we clean better, we disinfect more, those kinds of things. And what this purpose has freed us up to do is to talk about what it really means to live in a clean and safe house. And we've done research that suggests that you know, kids are better in school and kids sleep better if a house is clean. People eat around the dinner table as a family more often if the home is clean and is disinfected and feels safe. And those are things that have real tangible value on families and make a difference to individual people, kids or adults. So we focus our advertising more on that aspect, which is much more important than showing that we have better cleaning performance. And we are rewarded by consumers because their purchase intent for our products, the value perception that they have for our brand, but also the household penetration that we have with the Clorox brand. Clorox is in about 7 out of 10 United States households, is up significantly. So this is working. It's good for business, and again, it's also the right thing to do.
So you contextualize the product benefit and emotionalize it through your messaging, and it's all built on consumer insights, which is the perfect segue to my colleague here. Let's dive deeper into consumer insights and also the importance of the multicultural consumer, something Jake and I have worked very hard for many years. Um, so, Jake, I want to just simply introduce you. Jake is currently the executive director of the current Center for Multicultural Science, the home of an industry leading research and data lab and data science accelerator designed to educate, mentor, and place tomorrow's underrepresented multicultural workforce in data science positions in corporate America. Prior to launching the center, Jake spent 15 years as a growth consultant for a number of Fortune 100 companies in the US, including Clorox. Right?
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for that introduction and the segue. And Benno, let me commend you on the work that you're doing right now to navigate through this pandemic. I mean, I don't know. I was going to maybe begin by asking you, what, if anything, has gotten you ready or prepared for something like this at the Clorox company?
I don't think anything really got us prepared, to be honest. But certainly being able to track trends worldwide has helped us tremendously. We started preparing end of December, early January, so that certainly helped us. I'll also say that we have experience tracking flu, regular flu, and we have experience building inventory and reacting fast because we track viruses very quickly. And we have past experience from, SARS and other crises and pandemics that we've had in the past. That's perhaps helped a little bit, but I will tell you that nothing can really prepare you for something like this. What I am proud of is that I have a very diverse management team. Diverse set of experiences and skills and backgrounds. And I do think it helps at this point because there's a lot of ambiguity and there's very little data that helps guide your decision. And I believe that the answer to that lack of data and the ambiguity is to have diversity in the management team because it allows us to make better decisions.
Yeah, the diversity in thought, I think, is definitely a strength at Clorox and in any company really that's trying to navigate a very dynamic marketplace. I love the conversation that you and Chiki were having around consumer insights and innovation. And the one thing that I found exemplary of Clorox is the way that you've integrated the multicultural consumer into innovation. And so we think about the consumer as the end user. But I think if you can think about Pine Sol, for instance, or even Clorox, the product itself, the delivery, the scent, the attributes of the product, a lot of that is driven by your user, which is multicultural, African American and Latino. So can you speak more about that in terms of how it's integrated? And I think I'd love to have you talk about horizontal marketing versus siloed marketing. A lot of companies look at multicultural in a silo, and you're looking at it as a horizontal target.
Yeah, that's correct. So this of course is very important. In some of our categories, we believe that as much as 100% of all future growth is going to come from the multicultural consumer. So how can you not try to lead this? And we started about, I want to say 12 years ago-ish, and we started with a centralized center of excellence, which makes sense to get going and to build capability. And then that center of excellence started having tentacles into the business and marketing and sales teams. And then the third phase was to fully embed it, as you said. And, our goal is to personalize our brands. And we want to have a personal relationship with 100 million consumers in the U.S. by the year 2025, and we're making really good progress. And that's really the prerequisite for us to understand, the needs of the different groups and then to customize our innovation. Exactly like you said, it's very, very important. I think the time where, global scale and one size fits all, one type of innovation, one core set of insights, one 30-second commercial, one distribution strategy was the norm. Those times are long gone. This is about fragmentation, customization, personalization, And data, of course, and technology is an enormous help. But also having a diverse workforce is an enormous help. And the metrics that we have as a Clorox company in terms of representation of all the different minorities of women are pretty phenomenal. And it's something that we drive as a company because we feel like for us to be successful in this multicultural world, our employee-based representation needs to mirror the representation of our consumer base.
And I'm going to kind of move around with my questions a little bit, but you have a female president. You've had female general managers on the non-cleaning side in the past.
Yep.
You have a lot of diversity within the organization. So I know exactly what you're talking about. There is a lot of representation from the consumer standpoint within Clorox that can speak on the behalf of the customer. And I think that's one of those sort of like, success factors that I think makes you guys, an exemplary or a leader in the marketplace. The other thing that I don't know if you had a comment on that. No. I also wanted to segue to marketing, and I think that as a leader, it's very easy for leaders to get path dependent. This is the thing that worked for so many years, and it's so difficult to break away from, that past success. But you've been able to go from a traditional sort of advertiser on linear television, and now I believe more than half of your marketing budget, is digital. Mm-hmm. So tell us more about that transformation and the sort of conversations that you had internally.
Yeah, one of our previous strategies, we had a strategy 2020, which was the predecessor of our Ignite strategy, and we launched that in 2013. Was to transform our company and the way we go to market through technology. And, we saw early that this was going to be the future. So it started with selling, actually. We set a target in 2013 that we wanted to get $300 million, so about 5% of our sales by the year 2020 online. We have far surpassed that expectation, even though we thought at the time it was pretty ambitious. So this year, about 10% of our sales, so between $600 and $700 million, are going to be online. That's up from 8% last year. So it's growing extremely fast. The largest online customer, on some of our brands is the number 2 or number 3 customer behind Walmart. So this is growing extremely quickly. It started with selling, and then we went on to marketing. As you said, this fiscal year, about 60% actually is going to be the latest number of our sales of our marketing dollars are spent online. And again, it's pretty mechanical. We build capabilities. We use partners. We are based in the San Francisco Bay Area, and we use the fact that a lot of capability in this space is in the San Francisco Bay Area to partner and to help avoid mistakes and to tell us what to do and help us experiment. And that's been working extremely well. And we built an analytics backbone that helps us understand where are the ROIs of various online marketing tools compared to traditional tools like TV and trade. And then all our business teams are looking at this data once a quarter, and then they just shift to where the ROIs are. It's pretty simple. And the 60% online is the outcome of that. So it went systematically from selling to marketing to innovating with help of technology. We're building a digital supply chain, and now we're transforming the way we work, in part with help from newer technologies like machine learning, artificial intelligence. This is working, and it leads to faster growth, and it leads to higher employee engagement because it eliminates unnecessary and unmotivating work, and it also makes work a lot more efficient. So this is a win-win-win, and if you want to be consumer-led and you want to be a forward-thinking packaged goods company, and we want to be both, you have to lean into technology. There's no question about it.
You've answered my other question on the e-commerce side, because I think that's where, if you're going to go digital from a marketing standpoint, the e-commerce piece has to go with it. And I think the 4X growth that we've seen your company do in the last couple of years is a testament to that commitment. Let me before I turn this over to Chiki, I just want to say that the one way that I could describe Clorox is that you're a learning organization. I mean, everything that you said that to me is indicative of a company that is never resting on its laurels, not afraid to take calculated risks,
Right.
but the ability to kind of like ML and IA and all of these new things that people are still struggling to understand and how to optimize or use is something that I think, it separates a leader from a laggard or a follower, right, in this category. And so again, it just kind of speaks to, and we've got a nice audience here listening to us today, but I think that the ability for Clorox to keep learning and not be afraid of the unknown, I think is a significant, another success factor. That's my 2 cents, and let me just kind of turn it over. I mean, we've got a lot of questions here on leadership, and so Chiki, I'll kind of refer to you for those questions.
Yeah, and then I want to get to the questions we're getting from the audience as well that are very on point as well. So what do you think, Benno, are the most important qualities of a leader?
That's a big question. How much time do we have? I'll maybe focus on three aspects. The first one, and to me a most important one, is authenticity. Leaders have to be human beings, and they have to be themselves. You can't fake it. You can't be a robot. You can't try to be perfect. It's okay to be flawed. It's okay to be human. It's okay not to know everything. But I cannot make people follow me. I cannot tell people what to do, and that might surprise you. But ultimately, for me, success is we have about 9,000 people in Clorox. People need to want to follow our direction, and that's a wholly different task. And in order for people to follow me and my leadership team, we have to be a group of authentic people that people can relate to, and we have to be ourselves, and we have to be real. And I think that's the first one. The second one is, in my mind, you got to be passionate. I know that sounds simple, but I'm, mentioning it anyway. You've got to have fire in your belly. If you don't have that, if you're just in it for the money, if you're just in it for the status, if you're just in it to have a job, you can't lead because people will not follow you. That's really, really critical. Find something that you're passionate about and then do it well, but it starts with the passion so you can bring your very best self to work every single day. And then third, I believe in a concept of servant leadership or the inverted pyramid, as it's sometimes called. My main job is to be in service of my people and in service of consumers and customers. And I certainly set direction, but the biggest job I have is to, take barriers out of the way so that people in our organization can make decisions, feel empowered, and can do their best job. Servant leadership is incredibly important.
I'm going to weave in one of the questions from our audience. Sandra Torres wants to ask you a question. You talked about empathy. I agree that it's an underestimated corporate value. Can you tell us how it is incorporated into your company strategy?
That's a great question. I think it was Sandra, right? A really great question. I mean, I'll start with consumer empathy, right? So that's one empathy that's absolutely critical for us. We got to have empathy for the consumer. We got to have insight in the consumer, and we got to understand consumers not just from data, but through insights and emotionally. And that means that people have to have empathy, and that means that our processes have to be built towards sensing. But then, it's our culture. Those of you who know the Clorox culture, it's a generally more humble culture. It's one where people who are brash who are tone deaf typically don't do very well. Clorox is about delivering great results, but the right way. And it's in that right way where the empathy comes into place. That means you have to do it ethically. It means you have to do it based on strong values. It means you have to do it with people, and you have to do it for the community. Those are all aspects in my mind that talk about speak to the point of empathy. I think one of the most overlooked leadership qualities is emotional intelligence, is the EQ. And I think that intuition is incredibly important. we are living in a world that is so complex and so ambiguous, and I think the pandemic shows this in a unique way, that the truth is not to be found in the data. The data can guide, but you have to have intuitive qualities. You have to have EQ. You have to have empathy in order to make effective decisions. There's no other way, and I feel like it's so important for leaders. And I think even more in the future, so important to develop EQ, develop social intelligence. Traditional intelligence is no longer enough.
In light of the pandemic and what might be happening in the future, near and far, how do you think the relationship between the business and the consumer is shifting?
It's pretty simple. Consumers are more and more in control. Just by the way we communicate, right? It's a one-to-one communication. It's no longer on TV, And I think we're seeing every day how consumers take brands, good or bad, into different directions. Brands start thriving because consumers find new ways, or because consumers take the brand elsewhere, and brands are hurting because consumers are calling brands out for perhaps things that brands need to do better. We got to speak to consumers not as somebody who stands up on a pedestal or on a stage, but we got to have one-on-one conversations with consumers, realizing that consumers are in charge, and that's irreversible for me. And that means that things like we talked about earlier, having a brand purpose, having a personalized approach to marketing, trying to be helpful to consumers versus telling them what to do and telling them what to think. That's the future. There's absolutely no question. Through technology, we're going to go deeper and deeper into this direction. And companies who still believe they can tell consumers what to do and expect consumers to follow, I think are going to have a very hard time in the future.
But do you think data privacy might put up some blocks and barriers to that one-on-one communication, and especially, as people
sure.
are being
So we
tracked?
take that very seriously, and we comply with all the laws, as goes without saying. And we have a lot of conversations with our social media partners about privacy. I think that is healthy, right? I think the trend is still true. Consumers are going to be in charge, and communication is going to be more and more personalized, right? The power is in consumers opting in and consumers wanting to engage with you. Again, we can't tell consumers what to do. We can't force consumers to engage with us, but we can encourage people to want to engage with us. That's the ultimate way of generating consumer trust. And that's the holy grail in marketing. It's permission marketing, and that's what we're after.
Right. Good. What is the one thing that contributed most to your success, and how do you think you're different from other leaders that you see?
The one thing that contributed the most to my success was, life is a series of decisions that you make. You've got to make smart decisions. There's no way around it. And sometimes, hindsight is 20/20. But I live my life pretty intuitively. I use intuition for many of my big decisions and people I trust, and that's always worked well for me. I believe that I've made good decisions. I focused on learning. Jake, you talked about learning culture. Most of my career, I did not have a career goal of being a CEO early on at all. I always cringe when people tell me they, wanted to be a CEO ever since they were 15 years old, and admire them. But I always focused on learning new skills and exploring new ways of enriching my life. And that's worked well for me. And I still learn, and it's still something that intrigues me. How am I different? I mean, the most obvious way how I'm different is because most of you probably can sense I have an accent. Only 11% of Fortune 500 CEOs are foreigners, right? I'm a foreigner. The way I grew up is different. The culture I come from, I'm German, is different. The way I was taught to think is different. I have in the past I've lived in 4 countries. I have worked in more than 50 countries. And I think for a company that's mostly US-centric, about 85% of our business is in the US, that's been a key part of my success with Clorox. So I have been making a good decision to join the company because it's a great company and I love working for Clorox, but I had something to give to Clorox that was rather unique, and that was bringing perspective that the company didn't have. American companies sometimes are slow to adopt trends from outside the US. There's so many things that are happening around the world, and American companies sometimes feel like innovation is a one-way street from the United States to the world, but I think it's become a two-way street, and that's something that requires some experience, and I've lived for the majority of my life abroad, so that's something I was able to bring to Clorox. So I find that being a little different, having a different thinking style and a different background has really helped me with Clorox.
Great.
Well, I wholeheartedly agree. I grew up in Madrid, Spain, and have that same experience. Which leads me to my last question, then I'll go to some more questions that we're getting in. What structural changes do you think need to happen in the business community mentality in order to embrace that differentness that you just talked about? We're soon going to be a multicultural majority country. And already certain segments, 25% of the student body, just are Hispanic, 40% in certain states, 50%. Why hasn't America, corporate America, really embraced that need to really accept this diversity?
I actually think it's happening, Chiki. It's perhaps happening, or it was slow, but I think there's a lot of momentum. And if you think about now, I do think, it's good to talk about Black Lives Matter a little bit, perhaps as a good example of where I do see progress. And, the first realization, of course, is for companies is that this is important, and that it really is necessary for the business. It's a good thing for the business. But also going back to purpose, it is the right thing to do. And we are here not just for shareholders, but for all stakeholders. And there's an increasing realization by companies that that's true. So a lot of companies are diverting funds and attention to doing good in the communities. And I find that in the current Black Lives Matter discussion in particular, there's a growing realization, and we're certainly part of that, that just expressing support is no longer enough. But for companies, it's very important to become engaged. And frankly, not just with dollars and donations, which we're doing and is important too, but it's about taking an active stance. It's no longer enough to hire a diverse group of people and employees. It's important, it's no longer enough to make people feel welcome. It's important to make people feel at home. And that means that, we're doing bias training at Clorox. We're fighting conscious and unconscious bias. We have zero tolerance for racism. We spend time as senior executives volunteering. Those are things that I think are going to be increasingly important. We have to stop just supporting, and we have to start acting, and that's going to be the next phase. But I think it is going to happen. Companies who have jumped on board early, I think, are seeing the benefits. And I'm also afraid to say that the companies who are not jumping on board will at some point feel like that's a wrong decision. So I feel like there's enough economic and other incentives for companies to jump on board. And I'm really optimistic and hopeful that inclusion and diversity will have a bright future in this country.
But it goes beyond D&I. We have a question here. Can you comment on your stance against systemic racism as part of your doing?
I'd love for you to go to cloroxcompany.com where you see the exact plan that we're doing. But it starts with having zero racism, zero tolerance for racism. We are very much a supporter of racial justice, And what we have said is that we're going to not just listen and learn, which we have, but we're going to become actively involved. So we've made very specific commitments through donations in the communities that we live in. We have made commitments to increase the amount of money that we spend with minority-owned businesses. We've made commitments to do more and do better with our own employees as far as training and as far as development is concerned. And like I said earlier, we've also, including myself, committed personal time to volunteer and be active in the community to be role models. It's very important.
Very important.
If I can just jump in, I mean, this is from the work that I've done years ago at the Clorox company. Multicultural was a growth segment, nicely stated as a corporate strategy in the annual report, which is, you couldn't get any higher within the organization as a statement to say this is really important. So from a business standpoint, you've been doing that for years, like you said, decades. You had African-American females as the spokesperson for one of your brands or multiple brands for decades.
We're proud, Jake, that we, in fact, based on our knowledge, we have the only African-American woman as a lead director in our company. She's the only independent lead director who's Black American among the Fortune 500. It's part of our strategy. Our people strategy is called Reimagine How We Work. And we want to create a culture and organization that is simpler, faster, bolder, and that has inclusion and diversity as a competitive advantage. So it's firmly embedded in our strategy.
And I'm even going to hypothesize the fact that, in going back to your place of birth, the fact that you are a global CEO, in other words, you look at the world from a very different perspective, allows you to bypass these biases that many Americans, right, after a long time are they're implicit or they're accepting it without even realizing it. So those that are catching up are part of that sort of cycle of not realizing their biases just because they've been here before.
Yeah,
so,
I would. So I'd agree that it helps, but I would say that I have biases too, and I think that's an important realization. The problem, I&D work is not for minorities and women. I&D work, actually, if I can be so provocative, is mostly for white men like me. We are the addressees of I&D work because there are biases, most of them unconscious, and I have them too, and we have to fight them. And it starts with realizing that I am part of the problem too. I hopefully also think that I'm part of the solution, but I also need to keep working at myself because I'm not perfect either.
Well, you just lit up the comment board between the fact that you said that you're from Germany. We've actually gotten some German comments, which of course I can't read, and people are talking about how important all that is. And right now, Diane Hunt said, beautiful statement. I&D work is not for the minority, it's for the majority. So on that note, I just want to thank you, Benno. Thank you so much for dropping some knowledge on us. Thank you, Jake, for keeping the conversation alive. And to you, participants, thank you for tuning in today. Please tune in next July 22nd when I will be hosting, along with my CEO, Steve Odland, interviewing Senate CEO from Tenet Partners, Hampton Bridewell, and former chairman and CEO of Cisco, John Chambers. We'll be talking about marketing ROI, and I hope I can use Clorox as an example, because tying that purpose to your ROI is so important, measuring those intangibles. And that's a big focus here at the conference board as well, trying to find ways to measure intangibles. But we'll be talking about marketing ROI and the latest release of the Top 100 Brand Study of 2020. Again, that's July 22nd at 3 p.m. So sign up if you haven't already. Benno, thank you again. You've been truly an inspiration, and we appreciate your time. We know how busy you are.
I will.
Go get me some
Thank you, Jake. Good to be with you all.
Thank you, Benno. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Benno. Take care.
Okay. Bye, everybody.